Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with the worst lightning takes. And let's get right to the news.
First off, we had 2 more teasers drop for the Acolyte.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah. One of them is just Master Soul fighting against the character Amanda Stumberg plays, who I believe is May. It's hard to
Or
tell.
Osha.
Or Osha.
Or both.
Or both. The fight itself was interesting. I mean, it was very smooth, streamlined, kind of showed that Master Soul clearly isn't against something he sees as a threat.
Yeah, he's kind of above that, right? He's a beast, it seems like. We've heard he's kind of one of the top dogs of the Jedi Order at this time, right?
Right. I mean, he just dodges her attacks,
Kind of totally
takes her knives, doesn't let her take his saber, and he's just like, yeah.
Yeah, and depending on who she is, that may be the one he trained. We don't know, because there's kind of a twin issue, it seems like. So it's hard to say if that is like his student or like his student's twin. So he may have an edge over her as well in that department.
Now, the second little teaser they dropped called Evolve, I liked that one a lot better.
Both were cool, just
Right.
Aesthetically.
But this one actually made me very curious about the show. It showed a lot of, darkness, a lot of what's going on. It was exciting. You see some people, who've suffered some damage. You see people on the verge of death. It looked interesting.
Yeah, both were, again, just taken as they are, out of context of anything else. They look good.
Yeah, like I said, it made me very interested in seeing where the show goes. We also had an interview with Leslye Headland. She was with Den of Geek. And she kind of started by talking about where this concept of May comes from. She says, the character of May was rooted in a very early idea I had, even before we had her character, which was, do the Jedi have a monopoly on the Force? Or are there Force users that exist in the galaxy who are either dealt with and disposed of, or do they have to keep themselves hidden? Are they good guys or bad guys?
She needs to read the High Republic.
For someone who, we talked yesterday, she's read everything Star Wars, the High Republic does answer these questions.
Well, she said expanded universe, or somebody said she had read everything in the expanded universe. And technically High Republic is new canon.
True.
But it is made very clear in all the High Republic books that there's kind of a cooperation of sorts between different types of Force users.
Yeah, on Jeddah they have
a
gathering, a council meeting where they discuss different Force philosophies.
Yeah.
I mean, you even have the Path of the Open Hand, who was thinking that the Jedi using the Force was actually hurting the Force.
Yeah, it would cause ripple effect, bad things would happen when you use the Force elsewhere or something. Yeah.
Yeah, using it here means that it cannot be beneficial where it's supposed to be, and it was disrupting the natural flow. So I don't know if that meant there were other Force users or just other Force philosophies.
Well, some of them I'm sure were Force users. I mean, I don't know where this idea comes from that there's this monopoly on the Force by the Jedi, that the only ones who can use it are the Jedi. That they would hunt down and destroy those who don't follow their ways. Well, that's a concept she had.
Not,
Well, I've pointed out before the Night Sisters. Yeah. The Night Sisters exist on Dathomir. The Jedi know they're there. They make reference to them and how they're there. So, I mean, they're even quote-unquote dark side users.
Right, and after the Ahsoka show, we know that they existed a lot longer than maybe, even in the modern-day Jedi Order.
Yeah, we don't know how far back they go. They maybe come from another galaxy, or they went there and set up a colony. We don't really know which came first here, the chicken or the egg, or the other galaxy or the new one, or our main galaxy, I should say.
Here's something else that she said that I think you might be very interested in. She kind of talks about the idea, the concept she had of introducing the Sith 100 years before they show up in the Phantom Menace. Introducing the dark side, let's say.
Okay.
Because we know from the Phantom Menace that we have the line that it was been 1,000 years.
A millennium, yeah.
A millennium,
Andy Moody, Jedi Council member. He probably knows his history. No one seemed to disagree with him either.
Well, Headland kind of talks about how come she's using them in this particular time, dark side and everything. 100 years beforehand, which has been a little bit of a hot topic.
Certainly.
She says there are certain things that happened in the prequels about the Sith and about Darth Maul and the Jedi's understanding of them that I found intriguing. Qui-Gon on Tatooine immediately knows that Darth Maul is a Sith from fighting him and then reports that to the Jedi Council. Yoda knows about the Rule of Two. He says there's always a master and an apprentice. So while they're considered extinct, there was a little bit of knowledge about the Sith that I felt would not have come from ancient history. To me, it felt like to know that information that quickly, it would have had to have been in the last 100 years. We're just glossing over things.
Well, for one, the Sith just kind of naturally have this problem of if there's more than two, there's infighting and they kill each other. So when there's two, there's, essentially one that has the power, one to crave it, as they say.
One last thing she talks about is Darth Bane.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. That's
the founder of the rule of two, yeah.
Darth Bane, we kind of know he's canon. He is the establisher of the rule of two. Well, Headland actually tried to, introduce a reference to him in the Acolyte, but apparently it just didn't work out. She said, I really toyed with utilizing Darth Bane or mentioning Bane. We do not do it in the first season, but it is obviously the legacy of these practitioners of the dark side. While we don't get into that particular lore, there were some things in Legends that I wanted to drag out because I felt they were really interesting. Not only to the storyline, but to myself as a fan. I thought, well, I'd love to do that. It makes sense to talk about Darth Bane.
Well, especially because he started, that is confirmed in the canon. We have in Clone Wars, Yoda encounters a remnant of Bane who's like, hey, guess who started the rule of two? That was me. That's why I'm remembered. So it would obviously make sense that if the Sith are discussing their legacy, they would mention Bane.
It's sad that it kind of just didn't fit in the story, but I guess you wouldn't want it to feel forced. Don't
remember Bane? Did you read about Bane? It would have been weird if they had some
he does specifically say in the first season, so perhaps in the writing room of season 2, they've found a way to better mention Bane.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that I kind of disagree with her on a lot of these things, because there are aspects that I'm like, that's interesting. I want to like the show. Mm-hmm. I'm not making it a final judgment, but she's saying things that I'm like, well, that's not a mystery, actually. Why did nobody, point out to her that even in the High Republic, there's different ways of viewing the Force and different Force users, even in Clone Wars era, prequel era, Night Sisters.
Yeah, I haven't read a lot of the High Republic. I've read very, very little, so I really don't know much, so I can't say much about if there were other Force users or just other Force ideology.
Yeah. They're mainly other ideologies, so, not necessarily practitioners of different Force, but I still don't know that the Jedi would be out there. That makes no sense, hunting.
No, they want people to join the Order, but they're not doing it in any sort of weird malicious fashion where they're like, we police the Force.
Well, it's even kind of established that if you don't learn how to use the Force, it just kind of, it fades away, it kind of atrophies away from you as you get older. So I don't know that there would be this monopoly on the Force by the Jedi. This is a weird concept, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not liking that idea at all.
No. And that she just was like, well, 100 years ago they had to figure out something about the Sith, even though Ki-Adi-Mundi specifically says we haven't seen them in 1,000 years.
Well, maybe Ki-Adi-Mundi needs to recheck those history books.
Yeah, she's basically confirming that the Jedi are going to encounter the Sith. Mm-hmm. And that's how Qui-Gon was like, oh, that must be a Sith, because I read about it from 100 years ago, not because I just realized, this guy's very skilled. He's a master of the dark side. I'm having a trouble.
I sense something dark from them. Yeah. He pulled out a lightsaber. He tried to kill me.
Yeah, he's got a dual-bladed red lightsaber. He almost killed me. He seems to be, well-trained, as he said.
First time I saw him, he was going to run over Anakin.
Yeah.
Sith things.
Killing a lot of Sith things. It was just kind of the conclusion he came to because, well, jeez, it's got to be something. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think that's going to be all we got for this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell us what you think of any and all of today's news or what Leslye Headland had to say. Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.